Hey friends, today I would like to share with you a special kind of book. It's called a biography. A biography is a book that's about a person a real person, a true person, it's a true story, who used to be alive and is no longer living, or sometimes biographies can be about people who are currently alive. This biography is about a woman named Amelia Earhart, and she lived over 100 years ago. I Am Ameila Earhart. The author, the person that wrote the words, is Brad Meltzer, and the illustrator, the person that drew the pictures, is Christopher Eliopoulos. This kind of gives you a clue about what Amelia Earhart is famous for. Here's another clue. I am Amelia Earhart. And yet another clue. I am Amelia Earhart. When I was little, people told me that girls should wear dresses and play with dolls. They said we shouldn't have unladylike adventures. I didn't agree. I like the picture of her face. I like the illustrations in this book. Grandma's not going to like this. In fact, when I was 7 years old, my sister and I decided to build our own roller coaster in our backyard. We placed 2 planks of wood up against the side of our tool shed. There's the tool shed. The cab, that's what they're going to ride in, was a wooden packing box with roller skate wheels attached to the bottom. Don't try this at home. We greased the wood with lard. Lard is a really thick kind of fat, greasy. So we'd move super fast. Amelia, are you sure this is a good idea? This isn't a good idea. It's the best idea. Of course, I got to ride first. This was my moment. Here we go. In 3, 2, oh my gosh. Look at her friends. They look really worried. There's the lard on the planks of wood to make it go really fast. Oh my gosh. I still remember the wind in my face. My stomach seemed to sink. I was flying. Uh-oh. Here comes their grandmother. Amelia Earhart, take it apart this instant. The crash was loud and noisy and messy. It certainly wasn't ladylike, but it was awesome. That was awesome. Sometimes when you see stars like that by a person's head, it means they're a little dizzy and they bumped their head and they might be seeing stars like, whoa, that bumped my head. It wasn't the last time I would fly. As I got older, I went to many air shows. An air show is when you see airplanes in the sky doing tricks. When I was 23 years old, but still a kid at heart, my dad took me to meet Frank Hawks, a man who would eventually set many of his own flight records. You ready? I'm ready. For $10, Hawks agreed to take me on my very first flight. You can see how different the airplanes were back then. This type of airplane with 2 wings is called a biplane. Bi means 2. 2 wings, biplane. For 10 minutes, we flew through the sky and out over the Pacific Ocean. By the time I was 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew one thing. I had to fly. Look at, she's upside down and she's even loving it. Ooh. To save for my flying lessons, I worked as a truck driver, which wasn't ladylike either. Move it, Mac! A stenographer, which is a fancy schmancy word for someone who writes down what people say, blah, 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 blah. And there she is. And even a photographer. Say snook. She did a lot of different jobs. 6 months after I learned to fly, I bought a bright yellow used biplane that I named Canary. Canary is a bird that is yellow. Canary is a cool name for a plane, right? This is my instructor, a woman named Netta Snook. That's her real name. But here's my secret. I wasn't a natural. I wasn't the best pilot. I just worked harder than anyone else. That's enough flying for today. No, I can do better. One more flight. She is a hard worker. Most important, like that day on the roller coaster, I dared to do what so many said couldn't be done. A girl flying across the Atlantic? That's an ocean. Amelia, you sure this is a good idea? That's someone from the news interviewing her. This isn't a good idea. It's the best idea. I became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, and then the first woman to fly by myself across the Atlantic. Back then, people took boats to get to Europe. Sailing for weeks, planes were still a new thing. In fact, on the day I took off, one magazine ran an article that said women would never be able to fly that far. But I did. To do it, I had to fly for 14 hours and 56 minutes with no rest, no break. Sometimes the sun was so blinding I could barely see where I was going. There she is up in her plane saying, "This is awesome!" In the process, I also broke the record for crossing the ocean in the shortest time, doing it faster than any man or woman ever. In October 1922, I broke the women's altitude record by rising to 14,000 feet. That's up high in the sky. And in July 1930, I set a speed record of over 181 miles per hour. Then I broke an altitude record, which is just a fancy schmancy way of saying I went higher than anyone else. How high did I go? About 12 Empire State Buildings, straight up at a time when no woman had ever gone that high. The Empire State Building is a very tall building in New York City. In my life, I took many flights. Oh, look at her face. She is full of joy. Every single time, there was someone who said that I wouldn't be able to do it. Never let anyone stop you. Whatever your dream is, chase it. Work hard for it. You will find it. It is the best lesson I can give you. I am Ameila Earhart. I know no bounds, and I hope you'll remember that the greatest flight you'll ever take is the one no one has ever tried before. Never interrupt someone doing what you said couldn't be done. That's a quote. And here's a picture of the real Ameila Earhart. And at the end of the book, here's some more pictures. Here she is at the age of 7. Here she is in the cockpit of the airplane. That's in 1936. Here she is with her first plane. Here's Frank Hawks, the pilot who first took Ameila on an airplane ride. And here's Netta Snook, Amelia's flight instructor. You can learn more about Ameila Earhart if you're interested. She's a pretty amazing, amazing woman. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Mwah. Bye.